All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us, everyone. This is a financial aid webinar for the Tulane School of Professional Advancement. We have Chantrella Baptiste here, who is a SoPA graduate and a fabulous member of our financial aid office at Tulane. Chantrella, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time out to be a part of this process. And we would not have it any other way but to have you all join the Tulane alum, hopefully, soon. And as Vanessa said, I am an alum of Tulane through SoPA for the master's program, the MLA, and I am also part of the staff for Tulane with the Office of Student Financial Aid. So I am so thankful and happy to be here and hope that I provide you with enough information to understand and guide you along the way thus far with financial aid processes. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So we will be recording this as well, and it will be available online to you guys if there's something that you want to revisit. So I realized I forgot to tell you who I am. I'm Vanessa Rodriguez. I'm the Assistant Dean for Student Support and Success at Tulane SoPA. And basically our job is to make sure we help you and support you throughout your academic journey of everything outside of the strictly academic process. So our agenda, we're going to talk about, first of all, how to find your financial aid counselor. I like to say that the financial aid counselor is your financial aid BFF. You have the academic advisor as your academic BFF, and then you have the financial aid counselor as your financial aid BFF. They're going to talk you through about how to apply for financial aid. Make sure you know where to get the notifications so that you can be properly updated on where you are in the process. Going to talk a little bit about the federal Pell Grant process and limits and whatnot, which can be a little confusing to some, but hopefully it will kind of make it more approachable. There's federal undergraduate loan limits, satisfactory academic progress, which is not something everybody automatically knows about, so that's important. And then enrollment changes and the checklist. So we can go to the next slide and I'll let Chantrella start us off.
Thank you so much. What you will see first is the information and kind of a screenshot of our webpage where you will find your financial aid counselor. They are assigned, we all are assigned according to the student's last name. So that's where you would find on our website. We always encourage students to go to our webpage, to find your financial aid counselor and to find a lot of very important information. The initial web page is financialaid.tulane.edu, and it's a lot of information specifically for the degree program or the college that you're majoring in or the program that you're in. So it kind of breaks it down to each specifics of what you are. And the School of Professional Advancement actually has its own link on our website that kind of guides you along the way. So this is the information, like I said, again, it goes according to your last name, and that's how you would find your financial aid counselor.
Great. All right, let's keep on going. How and when to apply, that's important. Now, these dates I know are generally for fall, so they would be different for spring and summer enrollment, but walk us through this if you don't mind.
Yes, so that's a great question. The deadlines are priority only. It's not final set, but we try to get students to understand that the sooner the better, because you're running against the time of which billing is due. So that's your most important deadlines when billing is due. So you want to adhere to that. So what we did was set up to coincide when those applications are available. So for the FAFSA, for the free application for federal student aid for this upcoming fall that we're about to start in the next couple of weeks, that application was made available as of October of last year. So if you haven't done that one yet, you have that one. And in just a short time, the next one for 23-24 academic year is going to be made available as early as October 1st. The priority deadline is April 15th to try to get that information into us as soon as possible. That way, when billing comes, you kind of have more of an idea of what to expect as far as your financial aid offering. And this applies to the academic year. So it goes for fall and spring. Summer is optional, but we will utilize the same application, the same FAFSA to determine your eligibility if you're seeking aid for summer. But this application does cover fall and spring. Next slide. Okay. In addition to the FAFSA application, we also have an institutional form called the Financial Aid Addendum. For School of Professional Advancement, if you're an undergraduate, you would do the SoPA Financial Aid Addendum. If you're a graduate student, you would complete just a graduate financial aid addendum. It doesn't specifically say School of Professional Advancement. And what this form is, what it does is it provides us with an opportunity to get more information from you regarding your financial aid or what can impact your financial aid. That would be things such as your enrolled hours, what you plan to enroll, so we can kind of build a budget of what you may have to pay to attend Tulane for that particular program. In addition, we want to know the degree that you're seeking, or if you're seeking a certificate, because that plays a factor, because not all programs qualify for financial aid. We also want to know whether or not you're receiving tuition waivers or any type of external scholarships or any tuition or fee exemptions, because those types of aid do impact your financial aid needed from the federal side. So that application kind of gets a little more detailed information from you in addition to the FAFSA itself. That application or form is available on our website as well under forms. And again, you want to submit it, try to submit it as soon as possible, preferably by April 15th as well. Next slide, please.
All right, this is always, people always say, okay, when am I going to hear? What should I expect? When should I check? So fill us in on that part.
Great. So students want to know, okay, what happens next after I complete the FAFSA form, the addendum form? How am I notified? Once you become a student here at Tulane, our communications policy requires that we notify our students electronically. And that's the best bet, because you have everything at your fingertips, by phone, by laptop, by iPad. All of that information is there. So you are set up with a Tulane email account. And we notify you electronically if you're missing anything, if we need anything additional. And also, once we actually offer you a financial aid, you can see that information as well. On your Gibson portal, that's where you would actually make the decision on the forms of aid that you've been offered, whether you're going to accept it, decline it, or reduce it. You have the opportunity to do so through your Gibson portal. In addition to that financial aid information on that portal, you'll also see your billing information, and you'll see the funding being received by our office that you've accepted, as well as dispersed to your billing, kind of in real time as it's happening. In addition to that, on that portal, you would also receive notification if you're a first-time student loan borrower of any additional steps. So that would be where you would find that information, and we kind of provide you with the links.
That's a great question. I saw, if you're getting a full tuition waiver, is it necessary to fill out the FAFSA?
The FAFSA is always optional. It is not a requirement that you complete such application. But in addition to that, some students have their tuition covered, but may not have all of their fees covered, and unfortunately cannot afford to pay out of pocket. So they just want to have other options. Maybe you don't want to accept it once you see what you're offered, but it's always helpful or encouraged to complete that FAFSA application just as an option for you. You can always, once you're offered, decline the aid that you're offered, accept it, reduce it, or later come back after you decline it and say, hey, I don't need it for fall and spring, but is it possible if I attend for summer that I can utilize some of that money? And you don't have yourself, trying to scramble to do the applications, but it is an option. It's not a requirement.
Great, thanks. Next slide, although I do have a question here. Do you have to put a deposit down before you get a financial aid package?
You don't. I don't know the procedure as far as being accepted to the university, if that's a requirement.
Yes, so to be fully accepted into
Right.
the university. I'm not sure what deposit you're talking about, but if it's the deposit that you're asked for just upon acceptance, a small deposit, yes, that is required.
Okay, so once you, so then that would be a yes, because until you are officially accepted as a student, we will receive your information, but we won't know that you're an official student until, that occurs.
All right, so when's everybody going to get their money?
Yes,
And the disbursement
great,
and their coverage.
great question. Okay, so for disbursements of financial aid, for federal aid, specifically with the School of Professional Advancement, this is the only form of aid that we're able to offer for School of Professional Advancement. So it is for the academic year. If you've completed all the additional steps, if they're required to be done, then federal aid has its own policy from institutional aid. So federal aid is typically received the first week of school, the first week of your program. It says the first day of class, but don't be alarmed, because once you accept it, it does reflect on your billing as expected or anticipated to be received. That way, if you have a remaining balance that's due, you can make the proper payment towards that. So although the funding won't officially be here in time to pay for the billing, it'll at least reflect on your billing if you have accepted it and done all the necessary steps. After we receive the funding, once it applies officially to your aid, so for the fall, you're looking at approximately end of August. For the spring, you're looking at approximately the end of January. And once that aid credits to your account, so it's encouraged again to check your Gibson portal, you will see, each step-by-step of this funding moving from one department to the next. If you have any money left over, it's called an excess credit or refund. Students are encouraged through the accounts receivable department to set up direct deposit, and then they will directly deposit when they begin doing that process. That's a different office, but that's the information that we've received from them, averaging, 1 to 3 business days after you request your refund for them to actually credit through direct deposit.
Great, thanks. Next slide, let's see what we got. Balance, that is important information.
Right. Again, so on that same portal, the Gibson portal, like I said, you will see your balance due with the financial aid that you've accepted. If you have opted to accept it, or even if you don't have any federal aid through our office, but you have an exemption. We don't process exemptions. That would go directly from human resources or whatever the source is, directly to accounts receivable department. And you will see that in real time on your Gibson portal under billing. And then you can see the balance due and make the proper payment arrangements. I apologize that I didn't complete that part, but it does say, it's going to say, please visit accounts receivable department. You can visit their website at studentaccounts.tulane.edu.
Great, thank you. All right, moving forward, the Pell Grant. All right, so there's a lot of kind of, not minutia, but rules. So can you explain them to us, please?
Yes, so when you complete the FAFSA application, you're seeking consideration for federal student aid in various forms. The two most notable forms of aid through the FAFSA is the federal Pell Grant and federal direct student loans. So the federal Pell Grant is determined by your income and asset information that you reported and various other mitigating factors on that FAFSA that determines your eligibility. And once that's determined and we've received the results from that FAFSA from the government directly to us, then we look to see what you are enrolled, what program you're enrolled in, as well as what your enrollment level is. That plays a factor in how much you can receive of the aid that's offered. Oftentimes students are not aware, but there is now a limit for, I want to say, about the past 6 years. The federal student aid program has now placed a limit on the amount of Pell Grant that can be received, and it's at 600% or 6 years, whichever is equivalent. So they're counting all of the years you've received it. Maybe you began a program, ceased the program, started again. They're counting all of those particular times that you received that form of funding.
All right, so let's talk money.
Yes. So in addition to the federal Pell Grant, some students are offered federal student loans. This particular amount you see here on the screen is for undergraduate students. Undergraduate can be that of a dependent student based on what information is provided on a FAFSA, or an independent student, again, depending on what has been provided on the FAFSA itself. Again, just like the Pell Grant, there are limits to this form of aid, and this is all for your undergraduate degree and even your post-baccalaureate degree, because you're not in a graduate or professional program just yet. So if you've already received your bachelor's and you're in between programs, maybe seeking a certificate or a second bachelor's, then everything that you've received in your undergraduate does impact that particular program. However, once you become a graduate student, the level of loan that you can borrow does increase to $138,500. So, but you do want to keep in mind that it's anything that you borrow your undergrad, that's inclusive of that. So that's all included in that $138,500 student loan limit as a graduate student. But here, what you see on the screen is the limits for the undergraduate student.
Great. And I saw a question about the 20% discount for veterans. So that's available online. And if you go to Tulane, sopa.tulane.edu, if you go under financial assistance, there'll be the 20% discount form, and you can fill that out then. There are deadlines on all of the discount forms, so please make sure to watch those, but definitely turn those in as soon as possible and before classes start.
And Vanessa, can you explain how that works? Because we do in our office receive a lot of questions about that. So the application is completed with the School of Professional Advancement. What happens after that? Because I know we don't receive that information per se. So
no. So it is kind of put into your system, but you guys don't see it as financial aid advisors to begin with. So it's kind of a system-wide thing. So yes, we coordinate with Office of Financial Aid, as well as the Accounts Receivable Office. So that 20% discount is going to be kind of mixed with the discount if anybody gets any sort of GI bills, any sort of services as being a member, a veteran and whatnot, or a member of the armed services. That's all going to be combined together, and all of that information is shared between departments. So the 20% discount is of basically what is owed after you get all of your benefits and whatnot.
Thank you for that. And I just wanted to have that clarification provided, because I know a lot of times when students hear discount or any such sort as it relates to tuition, it's assumed that it's directly from financial aid that it is, awarded. So we do receive information because it's departmental wise, but the information that we receive is to let us know that, hey, the student is receiving some sort of educational benefit. And so just an FYI, as stated before, when we indicated that you do the addendum form, it does impact your financial aid, any other forms of financial aid that you receive through our office. So just keep that information in mind. So thank you, Vanessa, for providing that website, webpage where they would go to complete it.
Absolutely. All right, satisfactory progress. So I just want to kind of give an umbrella kind of context to this. So the purpose of these federal loans, ostensibly when the federal government kind of passed these Title IV actions, is to support the population's education for the purposes of gaining employment. Realistically, that's the ultimate goal. So they want to make sure that folks are making progress towards achieving their academic goals. So getting their bachelor's degree, getting their master's degree. So as such, the students does have a responsibility of making progress towards that goal as one of the prerequisites or one of the continuing requirements of receiving aid. So this is what this is all about.
Yes, so the satisfactory academic progress is regarding, as Vanessa stated, your progression. They want to make sure that what they are investing in essentially is that your success, your academic success. Granted, life happens, life happens for all of us. So they just still want to make sure that you're progressing towards obtaining that degree or that certificate that you're seeking. And as Vanessa said, gaining employment in the end. So what they do is the Federal Student Aid Program does have a policy in tow to ensure that students remain on track to obtaining that and remaining what is quote unquote considered good standing. So they have various, specific procedures of that policy that must be met every year. And depending on if you had a little trouble one of the semesters, it could be broken down per semester. So if you go to the next slide, I can get more in detailed information to you about that. So the first thing is the qualitative grade point average. We know that our students are awesome, so we don't have to worry about that, but just to put this information out there, depending on what you're seeking, the average GPA or the cumulative GPA has to remain at a 2.0 or greater. Again, like I said, if it is an issue where you've had trouble maybe one of your semesters, then they're looking at per semester that you try to have a specific GPA that's greater than a 2.0. It just really depends on where you fall. But cumulative, a 2.0 GPA grade point average is one of the stipulations of continuing to meet the criteria for academic performance. The second thing is the completion ratio. It is 66% of all the hours that you've attempted, but also 66% of the hours you've attempted for that year. And it can go in more detail per semester. So for an example, if you attempt 12 hours for the fall, 12 hours for the spring, you want to complete 66% of that. At any time you fall below that, then it becomes a matter of, are you going to be on probation or warning or potentially lose your financial aid, which can happen for either three of them if you're not meeting the criteria. The third component of that is the quantitative maximum time frame. Again, the Federal Student Aid Program wants to encourage and make sure that you continue to progress, and with the understanding that averaging 180 hours, 120 hours for your degree program, they give you a time frame, and that 150% is to say, hey, for the average bachelor's degree, it is an average of 120 credit hours needed. Okay, what's 150 of that? Well, we'll give them 180 total, because here and there you might make a mistake, you may withdraw from a course, you may fail a course, have to repeat, things like that. So on average, they give you about 180 credited hours to kind of get it together and make it right. So at any point that your degree, you've extended that time, then you're at risk for either losing eligibility or having to explain what happened. So this is the initial policy, those three components. And at any time you're not meeting them, then there's a possibility, we have to take the next measures to ensure that, what we can do to help you get back on track to obtaining that.
Great, thanks. All right, next slide.
And for more details on what I said or the information provided, you can find that again on our webpage for the Satisfactory Academic Progress, otherwise known as the acronym SAP. So we hope that you don't get sapped while in attendance here at School of Professional Advancement.
Thank you so much. All right. Wrapping up quickly, changes, financial aid. You got to communicate with your financial aid advisor if you drop a class, right?
Yes, always want to make sure that you speak with us regarding it, because any changes in your academic performance or your academic attendance, again, we're relying on what you said on your addendum to be correct and true. So at any point you withdraw from a class, you want to let us know, because that does impact your financial aid in the beginning when you drop it, or we will capture it at the end of the semester, and it could result in a reduction in your financial aid or loss of your financial aid. So you just want to be very mindful of that.
Thank you. All right. So there's a checklist to help you with all of this. I'll kind of walk you through it. Chantrell and her office work with us to kind of get everything all together. There's fact sheets. I would highly recommend that you go on our Tulane SoPA website and the financial aid website to follow these sheets to make sure you have everything in, because something cannot be properly process until you turn everything in. So please make sure to visit those fact sheets in their websites. And then of course there's the Department of Education's policy. If you're kind of a policy wonk and want to see what the policy is regarding certification programs and whatnot, there's a link to that as well. So that's kind of winding things up. If you have any other questions, please reach out to your financial aid counselor. I put my email up on the chat. Feel free to reach out to me and I will answer your question if possible, or connect you with the financial aid advisor who can. And hopefully we'll be seeing you in class soon. All right. Thank you, Chantrell. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all. Thank you for having me.
Take care, guys. Bye.